All right, let's talk about cylinder head porting, particularly the 317 LS head. I think most of them are going to be similar, but if you're running 317s, you've got some opportunity to free up some horsepower. There's tons of videos out there on doing this. A lot of them I think are going to go above the typical guy that's going to do this at home in his garage. Yeah, there's lots of measurements and things you need to take. Should check and be mindful of. Bowl porting is where you're going to get your biggest gains. But if you're going to go through all that trouble, you probably are going to just buy CNC ported heads. If you're going to be that particular, CNC ported heads are going to be perfect. Everything's going to be exact. It's going to be just right. It's going to be a program that's likely been tested and proven. If you're just trying to free up some horsepower for cheap at home, this is what you can do. So here are the primary tools that I use, probably what I would recommend. This little sanding kit from Harbor Freight. This guy, it's like $15, something like that. Comes with 2 arbors and a bunch of different shape little sanding disc. You can use these in a drill or a die grinder. You mostly use the die grinder, but you could use a drill. This is a guy that I've used mostly. Take in mind, if you're going to do this with a air die grinder, you're going to use a ton of air, and your air compressor is probably not going to be happy. I have a more commercial compressor set up, and it was after running constantly for 4 to 6 hours, it would kick the breaker off, which let me know that it was overheating and starting to seize up. So I would just turn it off and let it rest. Only did that twice. This takes a lot of time. You're looking at like 20 hours worth of work to port both of these heads. Now the second one went a lot faster than the first one because I was trying to figure out what tool worked and my port plan and what works best. And what I found is once I got going, really, and studying all the videos and what everyone out there is telling you to do, looking at the CNC ported heads, what they're doing, it kind of becomes obvious how you want the air to flow, like where you want to port, because it's how you would expect the air to flow. So if you see up through there, you can see I do have a hole right there, which is pretty standard. That is the bore where the rocker arm bolt goes. So what I'm going to do, and what I suggest others do, is put a little bit of RTV on that bolt just to make sure you don't have any leaks from that hole. But there's a lot of opportunity to port right there. Take some material out. So burr finish on the intake. I just did a sanded finish. I didn't bother with polishing on the exhaust. I did take out quite a bit of material on this exhaust, and I question whether or not that was the right thing to do because, this one I still need to do, actually. You can see there's still a little lip there. On the other head, I actually blended that smooth, which took quite a bit out of the seat. The issue with doing something like that is if you take too much material out of the seat, the seat can overheat and fall out, which is very bad, obviously. You're gonna destroy your engine. So I don't know. The verdict's still out on that. I'm gonna do this head because I did the other one. I want them to match. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I don't destroy my motor. Bowl porting on your intake, you really just want to smooth this off right here. Don't waste a bunch of time right here. Just smooth this area. Where your biggest opportunity for gains are in this area. So port this, open it up, look at it, and picture how the air is going to flow through there. Think of it as water flowing through here. How are you going to make water flow through faster? And do that. So I like to use, when I was doing the bowl porting, using this egg-shaped tool, and the part number will have an E in it because it's an egg shape. That really kind of gives you the shape that you want. If you use this tool in here, it's going to kind of, you're pulling material out in the shape that it wants to flow anyway. So these are kind of the main shape tools I used. I primarily used these two tools. So you have to be careful with this one because it can leave gouges. I did use this tool in a few spots, but you really want to be careful using this, and kind of, once you get a feel for it, to make sure, because you can leave cliffs with this, and then it's hard to clean up. This I only really used to get in just kind of tight areas, just to clean up, and that's mainly for aesthetic purposes. It's not really going to make a difference, just to get the burr finish even all the way through. So when you take your head off, you'll see there's going to be material all the way up here, which is like the swirl ring area. You know, pull all that down, pull this down, and you want to sharpen the area above the valve seat. You know, taper that down. You really want to make it a nice, like, airfoil, so that the air just really glides past through there quickly. In here, I just smoothed this out, and I took a little material off right here. I didn't want to take too much because you already have a big chamber on the 317. You don't want to drop the compression too much more, unless that's your goal. But you know, I did that on both sides just a little bit, and mainly just blended it with this tool. I tried not to take too much material out of the combustion chamber, and you have to think, you want to keep this consistent. So whatever you do to one, you want to do to all of them. So keep track of, when I started, I spent a lot of time doing one and analyzing, figuring out what I wanted to do, and then just copied that to everything else. So the first head took 12 hours. The other head took like 6-8 hours, so not as much time. Did have a broken exhaust bolt. I just built up, I took the MIG welder and built up weld balls on top of it, and then welded this nut on top and twisted it out. So you'll have to do stuff like that, cleaning it up. As far as surfacing goes, so I have the other one over here. I'm not taking the heads to a machine shop. What I did use was a scuff pad, like a Scotch-Brite pad on a DA, and just went over. So you can see the machining, the factory machining marks are still in the surface. So you're not going to tear up the head this way. You're not going to clean everything off. There were no head gasket issues or anything on this motor, so we're just cleaning this surface. And I did that to all the surface, intake, exhaust. See if I can find them. I'll show you exactly what it is that I use. We use them for some other stuff around here, but these 6-inch scuffing pads, and it's just it's like Scotch-Brite on a hook and loop, so you can use it on. I've got an electric DA. I've got an air-powered DA too, but it's peel and stick. I've got a hook and loop disc thing, but it's too much work to swap out. So, yeah, that's quick and dirty way to free up some horsepower. How much? Who knows? We're not CNC porting heads. We're shade tree trying to free up some horsepower and get our money's worth out of $20-$30 worth of tools in a couple hours time. So Let's talk about, almost forgot, talk about the exhaust ports. So everything that I've seen is like, oh, you want to get the gasket and get Dicom and mark all of that. Yeah, we didn't do that either. I did put the gasket up here and take this bolt out. Did put the gasket up here and marked it with a Sharpie. And you can kind of see some, I bolted the gasket on with the bolts. You can see some Sharpie residue on there. What you want to do is what's called raising the roof. You don't worry about the bottom. This is kind of a dead area for flow. All the air is going to come out, get pushed, and ride across the top. So you want to raise this part up here. It's called raising the roof. And you can almost see, I can see it, I don't think you can see it, where the gasket and manifold were. So these aren't perfect. Like, you can look and tell that's not perfect. I might clean that up a little bit though. And just kind of sanded the whole thing, opened up this roof area. And that's your home gamer port job. It's not going to be CNC ported heads. It would be interesting to see how much more of these flow than CNC ported heads. Maybe we'll do that someday. These heads might be junk. And if they are, they're 317 heads, which people think are junk anyway. In my opinion, I think the 317 heads are the diamond in the rough because you have more options. You can deck these heads and raise the compression. You already got bigger valves. I think it's just a lot of opportunity to make big power if you want to take the time or spend the money on them. But that's my opinion. I'm not a professional, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see. The main thing that I'll keep an eye on and report back with is if I have issues with these valve seats coming out after opening them up so much. I think I went a little more than what some people recommend, especially on the exhaust seat. That's the one you really have to worry about because it gets the hottest. So we'll see. But that's what it is. Any feedback or recommendations you guys have, I'm all ears. But that's my home gamer port job. We'll see ya.